Welcome back, TTM Trade. So let's talk about the stock market. 20 minutes to go over these stocks that I have my eye on closely. So let's just go over the overall market first. Let's talk about ticker SPY, the SPY, the overall market. Now I do think going into next week, next year, a happy new year, 2022. I do think going into next week, the SPY is going to pull back. Okay, again here on the daily, one looking bigger picture on the weekly chart. If you see this candle here start the week off, it did gap up, and then it was some small buying, but you can see towards the end of the week there was some slight selling towards the end, possibly some profit taking, and maybe some bears positioning themselves as you have that top wick right there. And then just on a day-to-day basis, you have a major divergence uh, here, as you can see here. You have a high here, and then as you go up, you have a higher high, but your RSI is diverging as you have a high here, and then you have a lower high. Okay. So what I believe happened, just I'm looking at this, a lot of shorts got burned. They probably was short in the SPY, and then you can see the market pushed up. And with these full bars like this and these gaps in between, you could tell a lot of shorts got burned out of their position and had to buy into the SPY. And now you can see that steam is kind of ran out heading to the upside. As you can see, these full bars and these candlesticks on a day-to-day basis started getting a lot smaller in range and then very indecisive. As you can see here, indecisive, indecisive, and then following, selling, and then selling to close out the week. So I think the selling continues into next week, as you can see here, even on the 2 hour chart, that PMO, this upward momentum of a breakout here on the 2 hour chart. You can see that that price action is beginning to consolidate, which shows that the price action is beginning to slow down and start to stay within these the perimeter of the Bollinger Bands. The RSI, which was holding above its averages, is crossing over. So one thing you will see, I think, going into next week is some slight selling. If the Bulls want to stay active in this one, there are a couple key areas that they need to hold. One being this 473 level, that top one standard deviation, and then definitely right here, right around 466, where you can see here just on the volume profile where a lot of the volume buying interest was traded right in this range, which will correlate with this middle Bollinger Band. So 466 is definitely a key level, and then another key level is sitting right at 458, which is that bottom one standard deviation. So the Bulls have a couple areas where they can choose to step in and try to hold this going into next week. But I do think we sell off. Not sell off, that's a little dramatic. I do think we continue to move downward going into next week on the SPY. And that, again, in that 466 level, just looking here on a more intraday chart on a 2 hour basis, a lot of volume right in this range of 466, which would also correlate with the daily's chart. Middle BBS sitting at 466. Now gonna talk about the VIX. Couple stocks I am looking at. I am looking at AMD just here on a weekly basis. Daily, I did record a recent visit video on AMD. I took some small trades on AMD this week. As you can see here on a week-to-week basis, AMD did push into this high of 160. And then if you look at this weekly candlestick, right, as the price action began to pull back, again, long selling, then you can see some buying coming in the mixture this week. Again, more buying coming in the mixture this week, making it an indecisive candle. And then boom, finally buyers take the price action higher. And then as they go to try to take it higher again, there's a failed attempt, and then it immediately sells off at the very bottom of the week. All right. So this is also a sign that this selling on AMD will possibly continue going into next week. 137 is a key level here on the weekly chart. Again, you fell that 137, then that leaves 114 open for the drop. But here on the day-to-day basis, there are some support level in between where the Bulls could try to step in. Again, 137 being that key level, which would be the daily chart. One standard deviation sitting at 139. So 137 to 139 is a key level to hold. If that 139 fails, then here on a day-to-day basis, there's still 131 sitting at that bottom two standard, which would be that last bottom. And then if that 131 fails, then we're looking at 113, as we pointed out here on the weekly's middle BB. All right. Now, 30-minute chart, I did take this play on an intraday basis. Again, in my last video, looking more on an intraday basis as the price action began to push up on a day-to-day basis into that top one standard deviation Bollinger Band. As I explained in my last video, I wanted to see how the Bulls reacted, pushing into that top one standard deviation. So we zoomed into the 30-minute chart, looking to take some trades on that. As we pushed into that 140, that 154 level where that top one standard deviation Bollinger Band is sitting at here on the daily chart. I'm gonna mark it here. As we push into that level here on the 30-minute chart, you can see that there was a lot of selling coming into play, and then you get these long candlesticks showing that there was selling. And then again, you get a lot of back and forth with the bulls on these indecisive candles sitting here. The bulls try to rally the price action back above the top one standard deviation Bollinger Band, as you can see here with immediate failure. And once the bears saw that, they began to push the price action down further. Now, once I saw that immediate failure, I did take puts on this one, and we took it downwards. And then once I seen the strong selling on these two candlesticks, the bulls coming to play on that 30-minute and then selling again. And then we got this series of indecisive candlesticks as the bulls were trying to step in and hold the price action here. I went ahead and closed out that position. And then the following day, again, bought into this position. I did buy it down on this initial dip here. So I positioned myself a little too early on this one, and then the price action rallied. And then on this rally, as it started to get back above this top one standard deviation, I did go ahead and close out that position for a loss. But again, then that downward trend continued as the PMO signified that move was not strong enough. And the RSI still holding below its averages. So, my key indicators said I should have stayed in a position. I just wanted to mitigate my losses because, again, this was supposed to just be a small intraday, 1 day hold, micro trade. And again, I positioned myself too early. So, close out of that position and continue to sell off. As you can see, PMO is still trending downwards on the 30-minute chart. You look here on the 2 hour chart. You had that strong upward run, as you can see here, and now the price action is continuing to sell off. Last key area to hold, you can see there was a lot of buying power, a lot of shares traded right in that 138 to 140 range right here. So again, if the bulls are looking to try to hold this up, again, that bottom one standard, which is sitting at 140, which will correlate with the intraday's lower range right in this area we was just talking about. You want to see the bulls come in right around 140. Again, if they fell at 140, then the bears could possibly take this further down, breaking that 2 standard deviation and then pushing it down to 113 going into next week. Now, if that bottom one standard does hold at 140 and you see the price action begin to consolidate with intraday charts realigning and turning back bullish, then this would definitely be a nice opportunity to position yourself for the breakout to the upside. Ford, I've been wanting to position myself in Ford for quite some time. Okay, I say to myself, this is the next Tesla. I know a lot of people might be laughing at that, but understand that Tesla was the first to position themselves in the market, the EV market. Um, and over time, they have been gaining their fair share, market share in the car industry as a whole, and then they have a major stake in the EV market. Now you have Ford, who was fully committed to transitioning to the EV market, and they came out with their Ford Lightning truck, which was nice, and now they're coming out with a EV Ford Mustang. So one, Ford already has a huge market share as far as vehicle goes. Two is just them converting that market share into the EV market. So Ford already has a hand in the market. They have a great positioning in the market. They just need to convert over into that market. Let me switch back over, check my time. So you can see here, ever since Ford started converting over into the EV market, ever since March of 2020, Ford has went on a crazy run from $5 all the way up to $20. Now you can see there is a lot of consolidation here on the week to week basis. All right. You can see here on this weekly candlestick, a lot of buying. Then again, you get some indecision, bulls and bears going back and forth. Indecision. Bears tried to take control. Immediately, the bulls rallied the price action. All right. But again, that was on very small volume. So that was a little suspicious, which the Bears noticed that and pulled it back down. And now you can see the Bulls are trying to re rally the price action back again. Now, just looking at this again on a day to day basis, this has been holding in this consolidation range. Mind you, while the Bollinger Bands have adjusted, Bollinger Band with low, way below its average, showing that consolidation cycle. And we are kind of ranging between that top two standard sitting at $21 and currently the bottom one standard sitting at 1950. All right. Now Ford is looking bullish, but it is in its range. All right. Now, me personally, I want Ford to pull back, fail this bottom one standard, and come back down here to this 150 SMA sitting right around $16, which will correlate with the weekly's middle BB, as you can see here, middle BB. Dailies 150 SMA. I would love to see the price action pull back here and kind of hold and consolidate. And then that would give us a great opportunity to position ourselves and forward as they continue to transition over into the EV market, transition their market share over into the EV market. Um, and this would be a great long-term hold, as I believe this one will continue to run just like Tesla did, just due to Ford's positioning in the car industry already. Um, but again, Ford is consolidating. Volatility is very low right now. Premiums are very low on Ford. Well, they're not very low, but they are pretty low, sitting on the lower end as far as the IV rank. Um, if we go into next week and the overall market is bearish and it sells off, just due to Jerome Powell and the bond tapering and possible interest rates and all of that nature, and then the news of these new uh COVID cases starts to worsen and the market gets a little shaky. If the market turns bearish, then I'm looking to take forward here at the top. This is a great risk to reward entry as far as puts. I'm looking to take forward from the top here and take some puts down to this 1950 level where this bottom one standard deviation has adjusted to where the current support levels are sitting at. So you can see here it hit that bottom one standard rally. If the market turns bearish going into next week, I am looking to take some puts right at the top of this range down to this 1950 level. And just depending on the time I take to expiration, possibly take it down to this 1588 level. And then the money I make on those puts, I plan on then selling those puts and going long, actually buying shares of Ford and riding it back up for the long run. Apple, and Ticket Spy follow each other hand in hand. Okay, so long story short, with Apple has been very bullish, rallying again. If you look at this weekly candlestick, bulls in control, some selling here, a lot of selling. If you look at this volume spike, a lot of selling, and then bulls tried to come back and rally Apple this week, but the volume was very light, and then they tried to rally Apple again back to its all-time highs, but again very light volume. And even with this volume, you can see there was a lot of selling mixed in with the buying, as it did close to the lower end of that candlestick. So again, looking at Apple on a day-to-day basis, you can see here Apple's in a very strong uptrend, constantly pushing that upper Bollinger Band. To show that strong uptrend, you had a push on the band here, another push outside the bands, another push outside the bands, creating these higher highs, another push outside the band, and then here it went to rally again, and it didn't push outside the band and or even touch it. So typically, what this will cause is a M top pattern, which we want to kind of keep an eye on this one. All right. So what I mean here, you go boom, line there, boom, pull back, boom, bulls try to rally it. Again, they don't even tap the upper band, and then boom, you get a sell-off. All right. Now, not a sell-off, but you get a when I say sell-off, it sounds very dramatic. But you get some selling going into next week because the bulls are noticing that they can't push the price action higher. And now the bears are noticing that, and now they're taking their positions and going short on this. So with that being said, I do see Apple with a double top currently sitting right around 180. Um, and there's an opportunity for Apple to pull back to that 170 level. Here, this is where you would like to see the bulls hold that price action. If that 170 level fails, then you have 162 as the Bollinger Bands begin to adapt and adjust to the price action here. But 162 is a very key level for the Bulls to hold. As you can see, there is some nice volume right around that 162 to 164 level. So this is ideally where you would like to see the Bulls hold. Again, if that 162 level fails, what correlates with the weekly's chart, top one standard deviation. If that fails, then again, you're looking at the middle BB, which is currently sitting at right around 150, which would correlate with the Dudley's 150 SMA sitting at 150. And if you look at this 150 level, that is where a majority of the volume transaction happened between the Bulls and the Bears is right in this level. So definitely, if it pulls down into this 150 level, I do see a lot of buying opportunity right in that level to buy Apple and then take it back long. Intraday charts are looking weak, as you can see here on that 2 hour chart. Each rally, the PMO push higher, and then here on this small fake out rally on very small volume, you can see the PMO very barely even crossed over and now has crossed back over to show that that momentum is back down to the downside. So again, it does look like Apple is going to pull back down into this 170, 166 to 170 level going into next week. PayPal, I love the way that PayPal is positioned for more long-term plays. You can see here, PayPal has already sold off, and it has came all the way down to its weekly 150 SMA, which is the monthly chart middle Bollinger Band. As you can see here, it's sitting right here. 1 month of a lot of selling, second month of a lot of selling, third month you can see this is capitulation where everybody who wanted to sell literally sold all their shares. They couldn't hold it no more. The pain was too much. And then going into the month of December, you can see the bulls came in after this capitulation and they started to buy. And you can see that this month is closed out in a doji candle where it's indecisive on if it wants to go further down, but you do see where the bulls kind of stepped in and started accumulating shares right in that general area. So I love the way that PayPal's position is sitting right on that 150 SMA, right at 177. You can see the daily chart, which has been in a very strong downtrend, mind you, that Bollinger Band with reflecting that volatility. You can see now starting to base out right around this 180 to 193 level where that bottom two standard and that top one standard deviation Bollinger Band is sitting at. It has broken above its bottom one standard deviation. As you can see here, the breakout, and then on the pullback, it found support. Pullback found support, and now it's kind of sitting right here, right around this middle Bollinger Band. All right. So you have price action consolidating right in this level. You can see there was a lot of volume and transactions on PayPal right in this area. So you can see there's a lot of buying in this general area right here. What you want to see is that this momentum, as you can see, the PMO has been trending downwards, reflecting this downtrend. Now the PMO has crossed back over and it's trying to get back above its averages. Um, and normally I will not make my entry on something like this until the 2 hour chart. I look for the 2 hour chart to recover its 150 SMA before I take a long position on a more day to day basis. So if I mark that here, reset the chart, as you can see here, ever since it failed its 150 SMA, which would be the daily charts middle Bollinger Band, as I mark it here, where it initially failed the 150 SMA, that yellow line right here. Zoom in, bam, felt the 150 SMA here, which is the daily charts middle BB. It tried to recover the 150 SMA here, again that middle BB, but then it failed again. After that, it just sold off. So as you can see, we're still in the red on an intraday basis. All right. Now, going into next week, if we recover this 150 SMA, we break above it on strong volume, and then we get a pullback. And on that pullback, the volume is very light to reflect that there's no selling. When it touches that 150 SMA, then I will make my long-term entry as far as maybe call options. I may even buy some shares here and ride this back up first to the weekly chart current resistance, the current bottom one standard deviation on the weekly chart is sitting at 211. That is the current resistance level we want to get above. We get above that 211, then that leaves the door open for us to come back and test the weekly's middle BB, currently sitting at 252, which is currently where you see the daily's 150 SMA trending downwards. But this is where this is your ultimate line of resistance at 150 SMA. So I'm looking for us to break out again, 2 hour chart intraday above this 150 SMA. Test that 211 to 210 area where the bottom one standard deviation is sitting at. Pull back and then a rally to try to test this the weekly's chart middle BB sitting at 252, which is the daily's 150 SMA. But I love the way PayPal is set up for a more long-term bullish situation if the market stays bullish going into next year. Tesla, I'm looking to take some puts on Tesla. Same thing with Tesla, follows the SPY. But as you can see here, Tesla, same thing, strong rally. All right, and Tesla has been trending downwards. I know we had the strong rally here on this weekly candle, looked very bullish. But again, you got to look at this rally was on very light volume, so it wasn't very convincing here. And then the bulls thought they had control. They tried to rally it further, and then you can see it just sold off completely and closed right at the bottom of the week on just about the same amount of volume on this bullish run here. So again, it looked like the shorts got burned here, had to close out their positions and buy into Tesla. And now that all the shorts that got burned bought in, you can see now that there's no buying back in this area uh, where people are interested in Tesla could possibly pull back. Intraday chart is already trending downwards. You can see the price action is starting to trend downwards. PMO is starting to curl over with the Bollinger Band width showing that the Bollinger Bands are constricting around the price action to reflect this consolidation. Now keep in mind, even though Tesla had this strong rally, it is still a lower high. Okay, you have a high here,